Okay, so the massive SpaceX IPO is officially on the horizon. And while everyone is, rightly focused on the rockets and space exploration, the real story, the secret story, might be what this all means for Tesla. Let's break it down. Elon Musk himself has confirmed it. SpaceX, which is already the most valuable private company in the world, is getting ready to go public. And the valuation they're talking about is just staggering. It could hit $1.6 trillion. Let that sink in for a second. So, yeah, this IPO is going to be a huge market-shaking event, no question about it. But the really interesting angle, the question that a lot of investors are wrestling with, is how this massive deal is going to ripple out and affect Tesla and its shareholders. And right away, this news has kicked off a major debate. Investors are pretty much splitting into two camps on this. Is the SpaceX IPO a threat to Tesla stock, or is it actually a blessing in disguise? So on one side, you've got what people are calling the rotation fear. For years, if you wanted to bet on Elon Musk's grand vision, Tesla was pretty much the only public stock you could buy. The fear now is that a lot of that money is going to rotate out of Tesla and into this new, shiny SpaceX stock. But then you've got the other side of the coin, the rising tide theory. And that idea is simple. A wildly successful SpaceX IPO creates this huge wave of excitement that lifts all of Musk's companies, Tesla included. And, most of the analysts I've seen are leaning pretty heavily into that second camp. The thinking goes that any massive success for Musk, especially on this scale, just reinforces his entire brand. It creates this positive feedback loop that ultimately is going to be a good thing for Tesla. But look, the connection here goes way, way deeper than just market sentiment or, having the same CEO. We're actually starting to see real, tangible partnerships beginning to form between these two giants. In fact, there are already a couple of distinct, honest-to-goodness space businesses being talked about for Tesla. First up, an electric rover, kind of like a dune buggy, for the moon. And second, and this one is really wild, is the plan to use Optimus robots shipped up there by SpaceX to build the very first outposts on Mars. These are actual projects being discussed right now. And this right here is the key question. A moon buggy, robots on Mars, that's awesome. It totally captures the imagination. But let's be real for a second. For a company the size of Tesla, are these projects really going to move the needle financially? It kind of makes you wonder, is there something bigger here? A hidden opportunity that maybe we're all missing? And that brings us to the real story, the true synergy, the real game changer. Is it happening on the surface of the moon or Mars? Nope. It's happening in data centers that are going to be floating in orbit. You see, one of the biggest reasons SpaceX even needs to go public is to get the funding for this absolutely colossal project, building a network of AI data centers in space. To power its global ambitions, SpaceX is going to need an insane amount of computing power, and it needs it located right there in orbit. So, here's the puzzle. Building something like StarCloud requires a massive supply of very specialized, custom-built AI chips. You can't just, call up Nvidia and buy these things off the shelf, especially not for the unique, harsh environment of space. So who in the world could possibly build them? And this is where a seemingly random comment from Tesla's last shareholder meeting suddenly becomes the most important piece of this whole puzzle. Musk mentioned that Tesla plans to build a Terafab, a gigantic factory dedicated to producing its own custom chips. Now, at the time, everyone thought, oh, that's for cars and robots. But now it looks like the real customer could be way, way bigger. And for a lot of people watching this space, this is that genuine Eureka moment, The light bulb just goes on. You have two completely separate, super ambitious plans from two different Musk companies, and suddenly they just snap together perfectly. So let's just connect the dots here, because this is the whole thing. SpaceX needs a ton of custom AI chips. Tesla is building a giant factory to make custom AI chips. It's a perfect match. SpaceX gets a secure supply chain from a company it trusts, and Tesla gets a guaranteed massive first customer for what is essentially a brand new business division. So, let's really wrap our heads around the scale of this opportunity. This isn't just some small side project. This partnership could fundamentally reshape Tesla's entire financial future. To really understand how valuable this is, all you have to do is look at a company like Nvidia. The profit margins in designing and building high-end AI chips they're astronomical. We're talking around 80%. It is one of the most profitable businesses on the entire planet. So right off the bat, just an initial order from SpaceX to get StarCloud up and running would likely be a multi-billion-dollar deal instantly. But long term, I mean, think about it. If Tesla becomes the main supplier of chips for a global space-based data network, the potential value could rival what Nvidia is doing today. And that's a business worth well over $1 trillion. This completely reframes that whole initial question. We started out wondering if the SpaceX IPO would hurt Tesla stock. And now we're realizing it could literally create one of Tesla's largest and most profitable divisions overnight. This is a potential new pillar for the company, every bit as big as self-driving cars or humanoid robots. So let's just recap how our thinking has totally shifted. We started with a simple question: is this IPO good or bad for Tesla? Now it looks like it could be the catalyst for a whole new business. The synergy isn't just a couple of cool space projects, it's Tesla potentially building the entire computational backbone for humanity's expansion into the solar system. The very definition of what Tesla is could be about to change big time. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. For a company that has completely defined the future of transportation here on Earth, its most valuable contribution in the decades ahead might not be on our roads at all, but in the stars high above them.